Have you ever wondered why silence feels so powerful, yet so feared? Why the very absence of your words, your presence, can unsettle someone more deeply than any argument or chase ever could? In a world obsessed with constant connection, the idea of vanishing quietly feels like the ultimate risk, maybe even a weakness. But what if I told you it's the greatest strength you could wield? That silence isn't empty or passive. It's a force that rewires minds, shakes egos, and flips the entire power dynamic in your favor. This isn't just about walking away. It's about transforming the very space between you and them into something so potent it cannot be ignored. The problem is, most people misunderstand silence. They see it as a void to be filled, a sign of defeat or indifference. They mistake presence for value, noise for worth. But what if that's the biggest lie we tell ourselves in Stoic relationships and life itself? The real power lies not in constant attention, but in strategic absence, the space where curiosity grows, doubt seeps in, and ego begins to crack. Today, we're going to explore this process day by day, layer by layer, as silence rewires their mind after you disappear. Imagine unlocking a secret weapon that requires no loud confrontation, no emotional explosions, just quiet strength and unwavering discipline. Are you ready to break free from the exhausting cycle of chasing validation, to reclaim your power in a way that's authentic, grounded, and transformative? This journey won't be easy. You will face urges to check in, to break the silence, to soften your stance. But with Stoicism as our guide, discipline, self-control, and clarity, you will learn to hold the line. You will learn how silence isn't absence, but presence on another level. The stakes couldn't be higher. In this silent space, the unseen battle for control rages, and every day brings new shifts in their mind. By the end of this, you'll see silence as not just a tactic, but an art form, a way to master yourself and influence others without losing your integrity. So stay with me, because the storm is coming and you are about to become the calm in its eye. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how often have you underestimated the power of silence? What if your quiet strength could be the key to rewriting your entire relationship dynamic? What would it mean to finally stop chasing and start standing unmoved? If you're ready to discover the transformative power of silence through the lens of Stoicism and Stoic relationships, then this deep dive is for you. Let's begin. Day one, the illusion of control. When you first step into silence, when you disappear from their daily radar without explanation, what unfolds in their mind is a carefully constructed illusion, an illusion of control. At this moment, they are convinced they still hold the upper hand. They believe the narrative is theirs to write, the script theirs to direct. They tell themselves that your silence is just temporary, a minor pause in the soundtrack of your connection. They might whisper in their thoughts, "They'll be back soon. This is just a phase." And why wouldn't they believe this? After all, patterns are what the human brain craves, predictable rhythms that soothe anxiety and provide comfort. The constant texts, the daily check-ins, the reassuring presence, they all formed a steady pattern, a predictable beat to their emotional world. To break this pattern abruptly is to rattle their foundation. But on day one, the cracks are almost invisible, hidden beneath the surface of confident denial. Their ego stands tall, wearing the armor of certainty. They still believe they understand you, that they have you pegged. Maybe they see you as someone who is simply blowing off steam, making a point that won't last. They think your silence is a weakness, a sign that you are struggling or about to break. In their minds, silence equals surrender. But you and I know better. Silence is the beginning of power, not the end. It is the pressure building behind that seemingly unyielding dam of their ego. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in front of a massive stone dam, calm on the surface, but carrying a force beneath that no one can see. Your silence is that force, seeping slowly through the tiniest cracks, imperceptible at first, but relentless. On day one, they bask in the comfort of their own story, that familiar narrative where they hold the reins. They haven't yet felt the ground shift beneath their feet because the earth is still steady in their minds. They laugh quietly behind the curtain of their ego, smirking with the false confidence of the known. The biggest lie they tell themselves is that silence means weakness, that you have gone quiet because you are losing. But this lie is a survival mechanism. Their brain feeds it like candy because it needs predictability and certainty to feel safe. When they were used to your constant presence, you became part of their emotional safety net, a pattern that kept their fears at bay. Removing yourself is like pulling that net away, but on day one, they don't even notice the absence yet. The pattern hasn't broken fully, it's just starting to wobble in the background. Their mind is still whispering the familiar scripts. They'll reach out soon, they just need space, or maybe this is just a test. They cling to these comforting lies because the alternative is too unsettling. But the truth is that by pulling back, you've already begun to disrupt their world. They don't realize it, but the sun has set, and the tiny match that was your presence is now the only light left in their room. And on this first day, that match flickers quietly, unnoticed by them, but signaling a change in the air. You see, this first day of silence is not just difficult for them, it is often harder for you. You will feel the urge to peek at their story, to check for any sign that you've been missed. The old patterns will claw at your mind like a relentless tide, whispering lies about your value being tied to their attention. But Stoicism teaches us discipline to choose what we want most over what we want now. This discipline builds the foundation for respect, both from others and from ourselves. On day one, the clock hasn't stopped ticking in their mind yet. They believe they still own the timeline, that they know when you will circle back. But every second of silence you hold is a pull on the thread of that sweater, the thread that will eventually unravel their certainty. This day is about planting the seed of disruption quietly, without announcement or drama. You hold your ground and let the silence grow roots beneath the surface. And though the seed won't sprout immediately, it is there, dormant but potent. The silence you've wrapped yourself in is a force that begins to demand attention without asking for it. It speaks louder than any words could. It shifts power without confrontation, unsettling the known order of things. This is the true strength of Stoicism in relationships, the power to stand unmoved, to reclaim your space through stillness rather than noise. As they sit unaware, convinced that the situation is still under their control, your silence is the tide slowly eroding the cliffs beneath their feet. On this first day, the battle is subtle but profound. It's a test of your own discipline as much as it is the beginning of their unraveling. You will face the urge to break the silence, to send a message just to check if the ground has shifted. But the moment you give in, you feed their false sense of control and break your own momentum. Instead, hold the line. Remember that silence is not weakness. It is power, disciplined. It is the quiet force that rewires their mind, making them question the certainty they once held. This first day is the calm before the storm, the moment when the cracks form invisibly beneath the surface, unseen but unstoppable. So I ask you, how well do you understand your own strength in silence? Can you stand unmoved while the other side clings to illusion? Do you trust the process, knowing that true power is cultivated through stillness, not noise? The illusion of control is their greatest defense, but it is also their greatest vulnerability. Because once that illusion begins to crumble, everything changes. You don't have to say a word. Your absence speaks volumes, echoing in their mind as a question without answer. and that question grows louder every hour you hold your silence. Day one is the foundation, the beginning of a shift that will ripple through their psyche in ways they never anticipated. This is not just a tactic, it is a transformation. It is the art of stoicism applied in relationships, a masterclass in discipline, presence, and reclaiming your power without raising your voice. So as day one closes, hold this thought. You're not playing a game. You are rewriting the rules. You are not the one reacting. You are the force that changes the rhythm. And in this silent strength lies a power that will grow, crack, and ultimately reshape the entire dynamic between you and them. The journey has only just begun, but the path is clear. The illusion of control will shatter, and when it does, silence will be the loudest voice in the room. Day two, the first disturbance. On day two, the silence you've held begins to echo louder in their mind, no longer a faint whisper, but a subtle disturbance, shaking their previously unchallenged certainty. The predictable rhythm they once relied on, the daily presence, the constant connection, is now interrupted by an absence they did not anticipate. How does it feel to suddenly notice a crack in the foundation that once seemed so solid? To realize that the steady flow of attention and reassurance you provided has stopped without explanation? They start to hear that faint snap beneath the ice, the tremor in the spiderweb stretched tight between branches, barely perceptible but undeniably real. At first, they tell themselves the usual stories, rationalizing away the discomfort. They must be busy, maybe they just need space, or it's nothing permanent. Yet deep down, something in their mind shifts. A subtle flicker of doubt and uncertainty begins to creep in, unsettling the comfort of their ego's control. This flicker is the first disturbance, the initial ripple that will grow into a wave. How often do we underestimate the power of those tiny moments, those small cracks that slowly fracture even the strongest structures? The brain's craving for patterns and predictability makes it resist these disruptions fiercely, and so they fight to cling to the familiar narrative. But the silence you hold has already done its work. It has unsettled their emotional equilibrium. They may not admit it openly, not even to themselves, but the steady beat of your absence pulses through their thoughts. It becomes a question mark hanging in the air. Why haven't they reached out? This question begins to seed anxiety, curiosity, and a growing awareness that the story they have told themselves may no longer hold true. It's important to understand that day two is not about panic or desperation on their part. It's about the first inklings of unease, the subtle recognition that something has changed. Their mind attempts to maintain control, to dismiss the disturbance as temporary, yet the silence plants a seed of uncertainty that grows quietly but steadily. Imagine being at the edge of a frozen lake, the ice still seemingly solid, yet beneath the surface a faint crack begins to spread. The surface is deceptive, smooth and unbroken, but underneath, forces are at work. This is the psychological space where day two unfolds, and it is a critical juncture. It is the moment when the first crack fractures their emotional safety net and begins to loosen the grip of their ego. But what happens when a safe rhythm suddenly skips a beat? How deeply does that unsettle someone who once took your presence for granted? As the familiar song of your connection falters, it creates a ripple effect of doubt and disquiet. They start noticing the absence of your messages, the lack of your voice. They find themselves wondering, did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? These questions gnaw at them, planting tiny seeds of insecurity that grow more invasive by the hour. This is where silence becomes a powerful psychological force, a disruption that no words could achieve with the same quiet intensity. You become the unexpected breeze that causes the spiderweb to shudder, a force of nature that unsettles the entire structure without violence or confrontation. Their mind, desperately clinging to control, attempts to fill the gaps left by your absence with rationalizations and hopes. But beneath these lies a growing tension, a tension they are not ready to face. How often do we fool ourselves into believing we are in control, only to discover that true control slips through our fingers the moment we are challenged? The human ego is a fragile fortress, built on stories and illusions, and day two is the day when the first walls begin to tremble. Yet despite the growing disturbance in their mind, they still cling to the lie that you will break the silence, that this is just a temporary phase. They believe they hold the upper hand, that your silence is a bluff they can outlast. But the truth is, this belief is their greatest weakness. You, who have embraced the principles of Stoicism and Stoic relationships, know that silence is not a game to be won or lost, but a strategy of strength rooted in discipline and self-mastery. On day two, the mental battle intensifies, not just for them, but for you as well. You will feel the pull to break your own silence, the temptation to check their status, to send a message that confirms you are still present, still reachable. But every time you entertain this urge, you feed the false narrative of their control and undermine the transformation you have begun. Discipline is your anchor. It is the quiet force that holds the line when every instinct screams to break it. What does it mean to hold steady when your own mind whispers doubts? How do you cultivate the strength to remain unmoved, to embrace the discomfort for the sake of deeper growth? This is the essence of Stoicism, the practice of mastering your internal state regardless of external chaos. The silence you hold on day two rewires their mind in ways they cannot yet articulate. It transforms curiosity into anxiety, certainty into doubt. Their confidence begins to wobble as the patterns they relied upon dissolve into uncertainty. Yet, they will not show you this vulnerability openly. Pride and ego compel them to maintain a facade of control, to dismiss your silence as inconsequential or temporary. But underneath that mask, the disturbance grows louder, echoing like an unresolved chord in their psyche. You are no longer just a presence in their life. You have become the unpredictable force disrupting their expectations. And unpredictability in human psychology is power. It denies them the comfort of certainty and forces them to confront a new reality, one where they cannot predict your next move, one where control slips away. Ask yourself, how often do we confuse presence with value? How often do we mistake constant attention for true respect or desire? Stoic relationships teach us that value is not in clinging or chasing, but in knowing when to step back, when to hold silence as a form of presence in absence. On day two, you are beginning to claim that power. The silence is no longer a void. It is full of unspoken messages. It communicates your boundaries, your strength, your refusal to be taken for granted. It plants questions they cannot ignore, questions that unsettle their assumptions and ego. How deeply do you understand the psychology of absence? What does it mean to be the silent force that rewires another's mind without uttering a word? This is the art of dark stoicism, the mastery of stillness as a weapon, the reclaiming of your power through quiet discipline. The stakes are high, and the journey is difficult, but the rewards are profound. As day two draws to a close, the first disturbance has set the stage for deeper shifts ahead. The path is no longer clear or predictable for them. Their mind, once calm and certain, now churns with unease and questions. They are no longer the authors of the script. They are actors unsure of their lines. And you, through silence, have become the director holding the final cut. So as you stand firm in your quiet power, remember this: each moment of silence is a seed planted in the fertile soil of their mind. With patience and discipline, that seed will grow into a force that breaks patterns and rewires narratives. It is the power of Stoicism applied to relationships, a path to emotional freedom and clarity that transcends noise and distraction. If you are feeling the strength of this message, if you are ready to embrace the transformative power of silence, then join me in this journey. Like this video and comment number 1 if this speaks to you. Subscribe for more insights on Stoicism and Stoic relationships, where we explore how inner strength reshapes not only how we relate to others, but how we master ourselves. Your journey is just beginning. Stand firm, hold steady. The storm is coming and you are becoming the calm at its center. Day 3, the growing discomfort. By day 3, the silence you have maintained ceases to be a mere absence and instead becomes an unmistakable presence, loud, pervasive, and impossible to ignore. What once was background noise to them has transformed into the sharp, deafening void where your presence used to be. This is the moment when the first true discomfort sets in, not just as a fleeting thought, but as a persistent ache that occupies their mental space. They can no longer distract themselves with busyness or casual rationalizations. The silence confronts them relentlessly. The mind, which so desperately craves patterns and predictability, is now faced with a break in its rhythm, a missing tick in the harmony that once soothed it. This missing tick is you. Imagine walking into a room filled with the steady ticking of grandfather clocks, their synchronized beats creating a comforting, predictable environment. Now imagine one clock suddenly stopping, just one. At first, the absence of its tick is subtle, almost unnoticed. But as you stand there longer, the missing sound becomes glaringly apparent, unsettling the entire harmony. This is the space you occupy in their mind on day 3. Your silence disrupts the rhythm, creating a void that screams louder than any words you could have said. How deeply do we underestimate the power of discomfort? How often do we seek to avoid it, only to find it gaining strength beneath the surface? This discomfort is not a simple feeling. It is a psychological force that pushes against their ego's armor, challenging their narrative of control and certainty. Up until now, their ego has stood tall, wearing its proud armor and denying any weakness. It has convinced them that your silence is just a passing storm, that you will return as you always do. But as day 3 progresses, that armor begins to feel heavy and burdensome, weighed down by the growing tension within. Doubt whispers louder now, echoing in the quiet spaces you have left behind. They begin to question their own assumptions and control. Why haven't they reached out yet? Are they really gone this time? What did I do wrong? These questions swirl in their mind, often unspoken but deeply felt. Yet pride compels them to hide this vulnerability, to maintain a facade of unbothered strength. The truth is, their silence is not a sign of control, but a defense mechanism, a shield raised to protect their fragile ego from the unsettling reality of losing control. But what does it mean to lose control? What does it feel like to stand on the edge of certainty and peer into the abyss of the unknown? This is the space they inhabit on day 3, a place of growing discomfort where certainty gives way to anxiety. And what of you? The silent force at the center of this psychological storm. You will feel the pull more strongly than ever to break your silence, to send a message that reassures both them and yourself. The urge to check their profile, to seek signs that your silence has been noticed, will gnaw at your resolve. But remember, discipline is the foundation of Stoicism and Stoic relationships. It is the strength to choose what you want most, your peace, your power, your self-respect, over the fleeting desire to ease discomfort. The discomfort you feel both inside and outside is a test of your inner strength. It is the crucible in which your discipline is forged, Do not mistake this discomfort for weakness or failure. Rather, see it as the sign that your silence is working, that the pressure beneath their ego is building. Like a plant growing stubbornly through the cracks of a sidewalk, your silence pushes through the hard exterior of their defenses, breaking down the foundations they thought were unshakable. But discomfort breeds action, and they will begin to act. Perhaps they post more on social media, trying to project confidence and happiness. Maybe they drop cryptic quotes about moving on or self-love, hoping to bait a reaction from you. These actions, while loud, are often desperate cries wrapped in carefully curated images. Behind the scenes, the cracks in their ego are widening, even if they don't yet show it openly. Your silence is louder than their noise. It is the echo they cannot escape. As this day unfolds, the battle intensifies, not with words or confrontations, but in the quiet war of minds and hearts. The more they try to fill the void you left, the more they realize it is unfillable. This realization fuels their discomfort and deepens the psychological shift you have initiated. It is important to remember that this discomfort is not permanent, but a necessary step in the transformation of the relationship dynamic. By holding your silence with unwavering discipline, you reclaim your power and create space for authentic emotional clarity. You break free from the exhausting cycle of validation seeking and enable them to face the reality of their assumptions and actions. On day 3, you stand as the unshakable presence in the midst of their growing chaos, embodying the principles of Stoicism, mastery over your internal state regardless of external turmoil. As their mind spirals through discomfort and doubt, your silence remains the steady force that rewires their narrative. You are no longer just a participant in their story. You are the author of a new chapter written through stillness and strength. Reflect on this. How often do we resist discomfort, only to find it growing stronger? How might embracing discomfort lead to greater freedom and power? The philosophy of Stoicism teaches us that pain and discomfort are not enemies, but guides, signposts on the path to resilience and wisdom. On this day, your silence is that guide, leading both yourself and them toward a deeper understanding of what is truly valuable. As the hours pass, the discomfort they feel becomes undeniable, yet they will still mask it with pride and denial. This is the paradox of human nature, our greatest vulnerabilities hidden behind our loudest defenses. But silence cuts through the noise, exposing what words cannot. It demands reflection, self-examination, and ultimately change. The discomfort of day 3 is the crucible in which the old narratives begin to melt away, making space for new truths to emerge. The journey is difficult, filled with uncertainty and temptation to retreat, but it is necessary for growth. So, as you navigate this day, remember that silence is not absence, but presence at a higher level. It is the voice of Stoicism in action, the quiet strength that reshapes Stoic relationships from the inside out. The discomfort you both feel is the harbinger of transformation, the quiet storm before the dawn. Embrace it, stand firm, and know that you are cultivating a power far deeper than momentary noise or reaction. The seeds you plant today with your silence will grow into lasting change, rewiring minds and hearts toward a new reality. The challenge is great, but so too is the reward. You are not alone on this path. Many have walked before you, guided by the wisdom of Stoicism, mastering themselves to master their relationships. The choice is yours. Will you let discomfort drive you back into the cycle of noise and validation, or will you rise above it, holding the line with steadfast discipline? The answer shapes not only your relationships, but the very core of who you are. And so day 3 closes, not with words, but with the powerful presence of silence, stronger, clearer, and more commanding than ever before. The growing discomfort signals that the transformation is underway and the dynamic you once knew is dissolving into something new. The storm has begun, and you are standing at its eye, calm, unbothered, and resolute. 4. Day 4 and 5, cracks begin to spread. As day 4 dawns, the silence you have maintained no longer merely disrupts, it begins to fracture. The cracks you planted beneath their ego on previous days now spiderweb outward, widening and deepening in ways they can no longer ignore or deny. What was once a subtle disturbance now grows into a tangible pressure that threatens to break the surface of their carefully constructed confidence. This stage is critical. It is where the illusion of control, once held so tightly, begins to crumble under the relentless weight of your absence. Have you ever noticed how a dam looks unyielding, strong, and impenetrable, until hairline fractures zigzag across its face? These cracks, invisible to the casual observer, carry the dangerous promise of collapse, a silent warning of the unstoppable force pushing from beneath. In the same way, their ego, built on certainty and patterns, starts to splinter. This is the psychological landscape of days 4 and 5. The surface might seem calm. They might act as if nothing has changed, posting smiles and confident words. But beneath that surface, the pressure builds. They begin to ask themselves the question they tried to avoid for so long: why aren't they chasing me? This question hits hard because it shatters the story they have been telling themselves, the narrative where they controlled the pace, the script, and the outcome. They thought your silence was temporary, a bluff that would break with time. But now the silence is proving to be something else entirely. It is a force that pushes back against their expectations and demands a reckoning. How often do we mistake noise for power, presence for value? The lie that chasing equals worth is one of the most persistent myths in relationships and in life. But the truth you are embodying through Stoicism and Stoic Relationships is far more profound. Scarcity creates value, mystery fuels desire, and silence breeds curiosity. By stepping back, by holding your silence, you have flipped the script in ways they never anticipated. They are now the ones left in the void, trying to fill it with noise that is ultimately hollow. The cracks in their ego are spreading, and the pressure of your absence seeps into every corner of their mind. They might double down on their facade of confidence, posting perfectly crafted smiles, sharing quotes about growth and moving on. But these actions are not signs of strength. They are cries for attention wrapped in illusion. Behind every post, every carefully timed message, there is a desperate hope for reaction, for validation, for proof that they still hold some piece of you. Yet you, grounded in the principles of Stoicism, remain unmoved. You are the ocean, vast, deep, and unshaken by the flurry of small waves crashing on your surface. This stage is often the hardest for you as well. The urge to peek, to check if they've cracked, if your silence is working, intensifies. The temptation to break your discipline and send a message to test the waters can feel overwhelming. But remember, the power of Stoicism lies in choosing what you want most over what you want now. Every time you hold your silence, every time you resist the pull to break it, you reinforce your strength and your clarity. The cracks spread, yes, but they spread because of your unwavering presence in absence. Your silence is the pressure building beneath the dam, and though the dam looks strong now, its foundation is weakening. What does this mean for them? It means the story they told themselves is unraveling. The confidence they wore like armor is now chipped and cracked. The questions they ask themselves grow louder and more urgent. Are they really gone for good? Have I lost them? These questions breed fear. Fear not just of losing control, but of losing you entirely. Fear is a powerful force. It breaks down pride and forces confrontation with uncomfortable truths. And it is here, in this growing fear that the power of silence reveals itself most fully. Silence is not passive. It is a dynamic force that rewires their mind, forcing them to face realities they once avoided. They may still act as if they are unbothered, but their mind tells a different story. Every moment of your silence reverberates in their thoughts like an echo they cannot escape. So what does this mean for you? It means holding firm in your discipline is crucial. It means embracing discomfort as a sign that transformation is underway. It means trusting the process of stoicism, the art of standing unmoved in the face of chaos, the mastery of inner calm amid external storms. Consider this. What if the cracks you see spreading are not signs of defeat, but signs of inevitable change? What if the pressure you are applying through silence is the catalyst for a new dynamic, a reset of power rooted not in noise, but in presence and self-mastery? These days, challenge your resolve. They test your commitment to the path you have chosen, the path of stoic relationships where value is created not through chasing, but through holding space, where strength is found not in loud declarations, but in quiet endurance. It is a difficult journey because it confronts not only their illusions, but your own fears and doubts. Yet, it is precisely through this struggle that true growth emerges. As day 5 closes, the cracks are undeniable, and the silence you have held becomes louder in its impact. The pressure you exert through absence has begun to shatter their false sense of control, and with it, their ego begins to wobble. This wobble is the harbinger of deeper shifts to come. The question now is, will you stand firm in the face of this transformation? Will you embrace the storm and allow the silence to do its work fully? The power is in your hands. To those walking this path, I say this: if you feel the strength in these words, if you resonate with this journey of stoic relationships and the mastery of silence, then show your commitment. Like this video and comment, number 1, if this message speaks to your soul. Subscribe to join a community dedicated to exploring stoicism in relationships, where we learn not just to survive the storms, but to become the calm within them. Your power lies in stillness, your strength in discipline, and your freedom in silence. The journey continues and the transformation deepens. Stand firm and stay strong. 5. Day 6 and 7, fear creeps in. By the time day 6 arrives, the cracks that began as subtle fractures have widened into gaping openings within the fortress of their ego. The once confident narrative of control and certainty is replaced by an unsettling sensation, the creeping presence of fear. This fear is not a sudden explosion, but a slow, relentless wave washing over the shores of their mind, eroding their defenses with each passing hour. It is the dawning realization that your silence may not be a temporary phase, but a permanent shift, a boundary that has been crossed with no turning back. Fear is a profound psychological force. It grips the chest, quickens the pulse, and silences the ego's proud voice with the raw, unfiltered whisper of uncertainty. What does it mean to truly fear losing someone? To face the possibility that what you took for granted may never return? This question, heavy and unyielding, now occupies their thoughts day and night. Imagine holding a handful of sand. At first, the grains feel solid and contained, but as you squeeze tighter, the sand slips through your fingers, no matter how hard you try to hold on. This is their reality now, clinging to the illusion of control as it slips away like the grains of sand. The tighter they try to grasp, the faster the illusion dissolves. The silence you maintain becomes the mirror in which they must face themselves, their choices, and the consequences of their actions. This mirror reflects not only their regrets, but also the parts of themselves they have long avoided, the vulnerabilities, the failures, and the uncomfortable truths. It is a confrontation they neither sought nor welcome, yet cannot escape. As the fear deepens, it breeds a new form of vulnerability. The mask of confidence cracks further, revealing glimpses of doubt and insecurity beneath. They may still post their smiles, their carefully curated images, but behind the screen, the panic grows. It is the panic of losing not just you, but the control they once believed they held over your presence and affection. The silence is no longer just an absence. It is a force pressing against their defenses, demanding recognition and reckoning. This is where Stoicism in relationships reveals its profound power. As they grapple with fear, you stand firm in your discipline, unmoved by the chaos unfolding within their mind. The temptation to break your silence intensifies, not just from their absence, but from your own internal struggle. Doubts creep in. The mind whispers, have they noticed? Are they thinking about me? Is this working? These questions are the silent battle within you, the test of your resolve and commitment to the path of Stoic relationships. But Stoicism teaches that true power lies not in reacting to every impulse, but in mastering oneself. Discipline is the anchor that holds you steady amidst the storm of fear and uncertainty. The fear they feel is also a reflection of the power you hold, not because you chased or pleaded, but because you stood firm, silent, and resolute. The absence you created forced them to confront their own dependency, their need for control, and their assumptions about your value. As days 6 and 7 unfold, the psychological landscape shifts dramatically. The ego's once impenetrable fortress is now vulnerable to cracks that allow fear to seep in. This fear manifests in restless thoughts, sleepless nights, and an overwhelming urge to regain what they believe they are losing. Yet paradoxically, they remain silent, trapped by their own pride and denial. They wrestle with conflicting emotions, hope that you will return, and terror that you will not. This internal conflict creates a tension that is palpable, a psychological spiral that tightens with each passing moment of silence. What does it mean to live in such a spiral? To be caught between the fear of loss and the hope for return? This is the crucible where true transformation occurs. And through it all, you remain the steady force, the unshakable presence in absence, embodying the essence of Stoicism. The fear creeping into their mind also stirs a potent mixture of regret and longing. They replay past conversations, ruminate over moments where things might have shifted, and question their own actions. The silence you hold becomes the space where their mind works overtime, trying to find closure, answers, or a foothold in the shifting ground. But you, grounded in Stoicism, know that this space is not for chaos, but for clarity. You have reclaimed your power, not through noise, but through stillness. The fear they experience is the mirror reflecting the truth you have embraced, that your worth is not contingent on their validation, but rooted in your own discipline and self-respect. This is the transformative power of Stoicism in relationships. The ability to hold your ground, to stand unmoved by external chaos, and to find freedom in your own inner strength. As the 7th day comes to a close, the psychological storm they face is undeniable. The fear has crept from the shadows into the light, revealing vulnerabilities they cannot hide. Yet, your silence remains the calm in the eye of this storm, the steady rhythm that rewires their mind and reshapes the dynamic. In this moment, ask yourself, how deeply do you understand the power of fear in human psychology? How might embracing fear, both in yourself and in others, lead to greater mastery and freedom? Stoicism teaches that fear is not to be avoided, but faced with courage and reason. It is a teacher that reveals the boundaries of control and the nature of true strength. On these days, your silence is that teacher. It forces confrontation with reality, challenges illusions, and creates space for growth. The journey through fear is difficult, filled with uncertainty and temptation to retreat. Yet it is in this very struggle that your discipline is tested and refined. You stand as the embodiment of Stoic principles, showing that true power is not in reacting to fear, but in mastering it. The transformation you have set in motion continues, shifting the relationship dynamic in profound ways. The cracks in their ego, widened by fear, prepare the ground for deeper reflection and change. The silence you hold is not an absence, but a presence, one that commands respect, demands self-examination, and rewires their understanding of connection and control. The path forward is challenging, but the rewards are profound. Freedom from the exhausting cycle of validation, clarity in your own worth, and the power to reshape Stoic relationships with authenticity and strength. As you move beyond day 7, carry with you the knowledge that fear, though unsettling, is a catalyst for transformation. Your silence is the force that channels this fear into growth, rewiring minds and hearts toward a new reality rooted in respect, discipline, and self-mastery. The storm inside their mind grows louder, but you remain the calm at its center, steadfast, unbothered, and resolute. 6 days, 8 to 10, the spiral of panic. As you enter days 8 through 10 of silence, the psychological landscape shifts from the creeping fear of the previous days into a full-blown spiral of panic, an internal tempest raging within their mind, where reason struggles to hold sway against the wild storm of imagination and doubt. This stage marks the transformation of silence from a mysterious void into an unbearable presence, one that disturbs their peace and undermines their ego's last vestiges of control. It is here that their mind ceases to be an ally and instead becomes their tormentor. In the absence of your words, the empty spaces in their story are filled with the darkest and most unsettling imaginings. How often do we realize the power of the unknown to unsettle us? The brain, wired for certainty and narrative, cannot tolerate gaps. When a chapter in their story is missing, your response, your voice, your presence, the mind races to fill it, usually with the worst-case scenarios. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest at night, hearing rustling in the bushes. You can't see what's there. Is it harmless or dangerous? Your mind conjures monsters and shadows, painting frightening pictures from whispers of uncertainty. This is where they stand now, in the depths of their own imagination, trapped by the silence you have created. The lie they once held, that they controlled the rhythm and outcome, has crumbled. Now the question isn't if you will come back, but whether you are gone for good. This is the spiral. An uncontrollable mental cycle where anxiety feeds on doubt, and doubt fuels fear. Their thoughts become unmanageable, chaotic, and relentless. They replay past conversations, analyzing every word and action for clues, searching desperately for the moment they lost your grip. This relentless self-scrutiny, born of your silence, dismantles the false narrative they clung to so desperately. The mind becomes a prison, torturing itself with what-ifs and regrets. This mental spiral is not visible to the outside world. They may mask it with bravado, post smiles on social media, or issue cryptic messages meant to bait a reaction. But behind these facades lies a turbulent sea of panic, fear, and helplessness. They are caught between the desire to reach out and the pride that forbids it. Meanwhile, your silence remains the overwhelming presence they cannot escape. This is the ultimate demonstration of power in Stoic relationships, not in pursuit or noise, but in absence and stillness. The silence rewires. Their mind flipping the script they thought they were writing. They are no longer in control. You have become the unpredictable force that unsettles their entire world. For you, this stage demands profound discipline. The temptation to break your silence grows more intense as their internal spiral becomes louder and more chaotic. Your mind may whisper doubts. Should I send a message, just a quick check-in? But Stoicism teaches that the greatest power lies in self-mastery, the ability to hold your ground when every instinct pushes you to yield. The silence you maintain at this stage is not a void, but a presence that demands respect, commands attention, and rewires patterns of thought and behavior. It is a force that breaks dependency, shifts power, and creates space for true self-worth. What does it mean to be that presence? To embody Stoicism so fully that your silence becomes the loudest voice in the room. It means mastering your emotions, controlling your impulses, and refusing to react out of fear or desire for validation. It means embracing the discomfort of uncertainty within yourself while remaining calm and steady. This mastery not only transforms your own inner world, but also reshapes the dynamics of your relationships. The spiral of panic they experience is the shadow cast by your growing strength. Their internal chaos is a reflection of your quiet power. This paradox lies at the heart of Stoic relationships, where your freedom and discipline unsettle the patterns of others, forcing reflection, change, and ultimately respect. As days 8 to 10 unfold, the mental torment they endure deepens, yet they remain unable to break the silence that holds them captive. This stage is often the hardest, for them and for you. The battle within their mind grows fiercer, and the temptation to ease that battle with a message or response increases for you. But every moment you resist is a victory, every second of silence a testament to your discipline and clarity. Imagine being lost at sea with no land in sight, scanning the horizon for a lighthouse that never appears. This is how your silence feels to them, vast, deep, and unreachable. And here lies the true power of Stoicism, the ability to be the ocean, vast and unmoved, rather than a restless wave crashing for attention. The difference between missing someone and fearing losing them forever becomes stark. Missing is sentimental. Fearing loss is terrifying. This fear drives the spiral, feeding obsession and anxiety. But it also forces reckoning and, eventually, growth. In this crucible of panic, their mind is rewired, old narratives shattered, new understandings forged. The silence you hold is the catalyst for this transformation. It breaks cycles of dependence and entitlement, paving the way for genuine respect and self-awareness. So what does all this mean for you? It means standing firm in your commitment to Stoicism and Stoic relationships. It means embracing the power of silence as a tool of transformation and self-mastery. It means resisting every urge to break the silence, knowing that your discipline rewires minds and reshapes dynamics far more profoundly than words ever could. And if you are resonating with this journey, if you see the value in mastering silence and embracing Stoic strength, then I invite you to engage. Like this video and comment number 1 if this message speaks to your soul. Subscribe to join a community dedicated to exploring Stoicism in relationships, where we learn to become the calm in the storm and the masters of our own fate. Your journey into the transformative power of silence continues. Stand firm, hold steady, and remember, the storm rages loudest before the dawn. As we reach the conclusion of this day-by-day exploration into how silence rewires their mind after you disappear, it becomes clear that silence is far more than mere absence. It is an active, dynamic force of transformation. From the initial illusion of control on day 1, through the spreading cracks, creeping fear, and spiraling panic of the later days, silence steadily dismantles old patterns of dependency and entitlement. It challenges the ego's grip, unsettles false narratives, and forces confrontation with reality. Yet silence is not chaos. It is the calm at the eye of the storm, the quiet power grounded in discipline, self-mastery, and stoic resolve. It is the voice of stoicism, applied not just to withstand adversity, but to reclaim personal power and emotional clarity in relationships. Throughout this journey, you have held firm amid discomfort, resisting the urge to break your silence, knowing that each moment strengthens your foundation and rewires their mind. This path is difficult because it requires patience, courage, and unwavering commitment to your own values and worth. But the rewards are profound. Freedom from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation, clarity in your own identity, and the ability to influence without noise or desperation. The art of silence is the art of presence in absence, the mastery of stillness that speaks louder than words ever could. It is the essence of Stoic relationships, a practice of discipline and emotional resilience that reshapes connection from the inside out. As you move forward, remember that true strength lies not in chasing or proving yourself, but in standing unmoved, holding your ground with quiet confidence. Silence rewires the mind because it removes the predictable, it creates mystery, and it demands reflection. It is a mirror that forces them and you to face what truly matters. The storm you have weathered is the crucible of transformation, and through it you emerge stronger, clearer, and more in control of your own narrative. This journey is not about winning games or forcing outcomes. It is about cultivating the inner strength to be whole, regardless of external circumstances. And in this wholeness lies true freedom. May you carry this wisdom with you, using silence not as a weapon of manipulation, but as a tool of profound personal power and growth. The power to reshape Stoic relationships and ultimately your own life, one quiet moment at a time.